All right, I'll now call to order this regular meeting of the Jersey City Historic Preservation Commission. It is Monday, March 10th at 6:34 p.m.
Please be advised that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice of this time, date, and place of this regularly scheduled meeting of the Jersey City Historic Preservation Commission has been sent to the Bergen Record and El Especialito on Thursday, March 6th, 2025. The same notice has been sent to the city clerk for posting on the bulletin board outside the clerk's office in City Hall and on the Jersey City website. I have proof of this notice here in evidence. If we could mark this as B1. Okay, we will now move on to a roll call attendance. Commissioner Amatuzzo,
Present.
Commissioner Garriga,
Present.
Commissioner Blazak,
Here.
Commissioner Cronin,
Here.
Commissioner Sandkamp is absent, Commissioner Gunther is absent, Commissioner Sakong is absent, Vice Chair Gucciardo is absent, and Chair Gordon.
Present.
Okay, there are 5 commissioners present this evening. 5 affirmative votes are required for a certificate of appropriateness. Next up on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the February 10th, 2025 regular HPC meeting. Are there any questions or corrections to the minutes?
No.
Since there are no corrections or changes, staff recommends making a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Motion. Second.
Okay, so we got Paul and Dan. Okay. I'm going to take a roll call vote. Commissioner Amatuzzo,
Aye.
Commissioner Garriga,
Aye.
Commissioner Blazak,
Abstain.
Commissioner Cronin,
Aye.
Chair Gordon.
Aye.
Okay, there are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention. The minutes from the February 10th HPC meeting are approved. For correspondence, all copies of correspondence and all application materials are linked on the agenda through their application numbers. Staff has no announcements at this time. If there are any members of the public who would like to speak regarding matters of historic preservation that are not listed on tonight's agenda, please approach the public comment mic. Again, this is for matters not on tonight's agenda. If you could just tap. If you could just tap on the, right on the base. It says push. Oh, sorry. Right on the microphone base. Yeah. And then that'll turn it on.
Yeah, do I swear in for a comment?
Yes.
Raise your hand.
Hi, how are you?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And please spell your full name and address.
Sure. Christopher Perez, Perez, 69 Union Street. Good evening, everybody.
Sorry, just before we begin, just want to go through some of the rules. So all members of the public will have 3 minutes to address the commission. I'll indicate when that time starts and ends. Around 45 seconds, I'll give you a reminder. 5 minutes. Yes, sorry.
At the chairs
My
to, at the, is this on?
You gotta.
At the chair's discretion, you can lower it to 3 per the bylaws. So that's on you, Chair Gordon.
5 minutes is fine if you need it.
I won't need it.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks for explaining
Feel
that.
free to begin.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Perez. I'm representing the Jersey City Landmarks Conservancy this evening. I wanted to let the commissioners know that the Embankment Preservation Coalition and the JCLC are hosting a 2025 mayoral candidates panel discussion on historic preservation and environmental concerns. This will be on Sunday, May 4th from 3:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. At this time, we have not secured our venue. We're debating between 3 right now, but we will have an update on that. You can get the updates on the embankment.org website or the jclandmarks.org website. We also welcome the commissioners to submit proposed questions. You can submit those to jclandmarks@gmail.com, and we'll forward a form where you can write your questions for the event. And I think that's pretty much all I have for this evening. Have a good one. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Perez.
Thank you. That was my bad. I did forget to make a motion to recommend a motion to open public comment. So I don't know if we want to make that motion now and then, or Jonathan.
I think it's probably okay without a motion, right?
Okay.
Like, we already had it.
Yes. Any other members of the public here to speak? Okay. So if we could have a motion to close public comment.
Motion. Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
And Chair, if you would like to call the first case.
Yep, I will start with old business, calling case H-23-0023. The applicant is Benjamin Wine Esquire on behalf of Jersey City 3 Deals LLC owner. The address is 2624 John F. Kennedy Boulevard in the West Bergen East Lincoln Park Historic District. The application is for a certificate of appropriateness for the construction of a new 4-story, 6-unit residential building and associated site work. This is a recommendation to the Jersey City Zoning Board of Adjustment and was carried from the February 10th, 2025 regular HPC meeting.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. For the record, Benjamin Wine of Prime Tuvel and Maselli on behalf of the applicant. As I do at the beginning of every one of the time the chairs call it, just to correct the record, this was at one point a 6-unit building. It is now a 4-unit building, and I know that we've gone through that in detail. I just, I know it's still listed that way in the agenda, so I figured I would correct it. I won't go through the entire background of the application. This is our 4th meeting here before the board. Mr. Hachimov, you look like you have to say something.
I was going to just jump in just before we get further. If I could just bring up Commissioners Blazak and Grieger, you were not present at the previous hearing for this application. Can you confirm that you have read the transcripts for those meetings or watched the video?
I can confirm.
Yes, I watched the YouTube video.
Ben, are you comfortable with those 2 commissioners voting on the application?
Yes, I am.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so with that, I wanted to go through a couple of items of housekeeping. First of all, I wanted to formally wish congratulations to Miss O'Neill on the birth of her baby. I was hoping she'd be able to be here for the conclusion of this application. She would be able to be here for the conclusion of this application, but that's obviously a very valid and good reason. Please extend her my best. And to Commissioner Amatuzzo, it's been a lot of fun over the years, and I'm sure we'll continue to be in touch. So with that, the application before you this evening, we've gone through it in detail before, but ultimately is for a 4-story, 4-unit residential building located at the property. We've had our project architect walk through several iterations of the plan, many of which were based on comments that we received from yourselves as well as from members of the public. And what we're ultimately here with this evening is what we hope collects all of those comments into a final product that this commission and that we can all be proud. I can tell you we're proud of it, and we hope that obviously the commission can be as well. I also wanted to indicate for the record that put a correction on the record. It was I aired at the last meeting, and I just want to make clear that it was obviously not on purpose. But one of the comments that came up from Commissioner Gunther, one of the requests is, well, can you lower these floor-to-floor heights of this building in any capacity? And when we began this application, it was under the old R1 zoning standards. It has since shifted to the RH2 zoning today. During that shift, one of the requirements for 9-foot floor to ceilings that used to exist was actually eliminated. So actually when I went home that night, because this is what lawyers do instead of sleeping, is we look back on things we said and confirm. And I spent about an hour and a half ripping through the ordinance and found that, in fact, it no longer has a 9-foot floor to ceiling requirement per floor. And then I consulted with Miss O'Neill the following day and Miss Marione as well of planning, just to make sure that I wasn't missing it in my re-review. And everybody confirmed and came to the conclusion that during the transition between the R1 and the RH2, that requirement was dropped from the Jersey City Land Development Ordinance. And so one of the things we've done, I'm going to just highlight very briefly the 5 changes we've made ahead of this evening. One of them is that we immediately lowered the floor to ceiling height of each of the 3 upper floors, not the ADA floor for reasons we'll get into, but we were able to do so by 6 inches per floor to 8.5, which gets us to exactly 18 inches shorter, or a 1.5 foot shorter on the building. You'll see from our architect what that does contextually with the remainder of the block. I think it's a huge improvement. I spoke to my client, obviously, before making that decision, because that certainly affects rentability, sellability, things like that. But he said at 8.5 feet floor to ceiling, that is something that is seen in the industry of new construction. So he was comfortable to make that change. So I wanted to put that correction on the record. This has been going on for a while, and that is something that has changed. The other 4 changes that we've made, which you'll hear from our architect in detail, involve the door, which I know was a large point of conversation at the last meeting. So you'll see that and what we were able to come up with. The other one is the cladding on the bay window, which previously you saw a large swath of white cladding, and that has been eliminated and changed to match the remaining color and texture of the building, which again you'll see in detail. And there were, and also the CMU wall that had been proposed and then unproposed and then proposed again has now been unproposed once again. So, hopefully this is the what does the trick. And then lastly, there was a comment from Ms. Burke in the public regarding roof leaders and how they could be, reoriented, similar to, I think, some style that she has on her residence. So I'll have our architect speak to that. We were able to make some change, so I wanted to make sure that we could put that on the record. So those were the comments that I believe we were left with coming out of last meeting. I did follow up with Miss O'Neill within a couple of days after that meeting to make sure I didn't miss anything and our list of notes aligned with each other, which is always a good thing. And with that, Chair and Commissioners, unless you have any questions of me, I'm happy to present our latest design through Mr. Moreno. Of course.
All right. Is it popping up on your screen?
Yes.
Raise your right hand.
Yes.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give
I do.
and states for the full name for the record?
Martin Moreno, Martinmoreno. Dealing with a bit of a sore throat, so I apologize. I think it's going around.
All right, Martin, I know you were sworn in previously as the project designer, so if you can just confirm again that everything being presented here was overseen by Mr. Laporta under his seal and signature, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
So Martin, why don't you, without belaboring the point, I know there are a few items on tonight, walk the board through the changes that you've made based on the comments received at the last meeting.
So, well, good evening, everyone. Good to see everyone again. For the record, once again, my name is Martin Moreno, speaking on behalf of T. Laporta Architect PC for our project at 2624 John F. Kennedy Boulevard. So as Mr. Wine mentioned in his statement, I'm here to present some of the changes that we made from the last meeting. The 3 main ones from the board being the height, the exterior colors and materials, and, exterior colors and materials, and the door. So to start off, as it was mentioned before, we shaved off 6 inches from the first, second, and the third floor Just to be clear, as you can see my cursor here, this floor, and this floor, we shaved 6 inches from those and went from a proposed 9-foot floor-to-ceiling height to an 8'6" floor-to-ceiling height. By doing so, we were able to reduce 18 inches off the building height, which provided us with a much more conceptual building elevation in regards to the neighborhood context. It matches and flows better with the neighboring buildings, and I will recap that once I get to the streetscape page. But to highlight the materials, I think it's best to highlight them now, given that we are at the cover page, which shows the revised exterior rendering. As you recall from the last meeting, both the bay windows on the left, if you follow my cursor, and on the right were previously white paneling. The reason for doing that was to match or have some sort of similarities with our adjacent neighbors. As you can see in the bottom, on the bottom center here, our immediate neighbor has also bay windows which are both fully white paneled bay windows. So to sort of match that aesthetic and match that design and have some sort of continuity between our building and the neighbors, we propose white cladding for both our bay windows. Once we proposed it to the board last month, we felt that along with the board's suggestion, it was probably best to rethink that color decision. So we went ahead and did that, and we felt, after discussing with the board as mentioned, we revised the bay windows to match the green siding of the green color of the predominant building. So rather than having overall white cladding on both these small bump outs, we proposed green siding to match the predominant, and we just provided the large white window trim as we did to the other windows, just to give it some similarity, just to help it stick out a little bit. And overall, I think it's a much better look. So I do agree with that, with those changes. Commissioner Blazek, you were not here at the last meeting, but just something that I want to recap. You really pushed for the red brick in previous meetings. If you recall, I had mentioned that we had tried to do the red brick, but just it didn't really fit well with the adjacent buildings and some of the bricks that the adjacent buildings had. There's a lot of tones of beige, of brown, so that's originally what we had proposed. But after revisiting that idea and trying to mess around with different iterations of red brick, that's actually how we landed on the green siding. To find something that complemented the red brick, that's how the green siding came about. So that's the reasoning behind this overall color change of the building. So that's I'm going to highlight that as our first major change. It was changing the white cladding of the bump outs to more green siding to match the predominant building. Moving on to our site plan, moving on to our elevation sheet to highlight the changes in the height. Just to recap, no changes were made to the interior floor plans or the interior layouts. So I'm just going to go to our elevation sheets. So once again, as you can see here, we changed the colors of the bump outs from the overall white cladding to the green to match the predominant material on the building, and we reduced the overall structure height by 18 inches. Here doesn't really translate very well. It reads a lot better once I put it in, once we get to the streetscape elevation. So I'm just going to go forward to that. But before I get there, I do want to highlight the door. So previously, there was a lot of back and forth in regards to the previous door design that we had. We had a sort of, as the board put it, something that you can just pick off from Home Depot, kind of like I wouldn't really call it a barn door, but it was a very traditional, standard-looking door. And it was also a steel door. It was suggested to us to provide something similar to something that provided a much more grander entrance, maybe with more side lights, with more glass, and maybe rethink the material. So with that in mind, we changed the steel door to a wooden door. It is now an Andersen wooden door. It's not standard. It's a very specific type of door with 2 side lights on the side. So the specifications for the door can be found on sheet A202. As you can see here, this is the specifications for the Andersen door. As mentioned, it is a swing door with large glass paneling and 2 side lights to match on both sides. This was the largest that we could go given our proposed landing. And once again, we felt that it was a much better look. It doesn't have that sort of, I don't want to say cheap, but it doesn't have that more like a sort of cookie cutter look as we had before. So that was the other principal change. And lastly, going in regards to the building height, personally, I've looked at this a million times. I know it's been viewed a couple times by the board over the last couple months. I definitely noticed a change in the height. I definitely do tell the difference, but reducing it does provide a much better streetscape overall elevation in regards to our neighboring buildings, and it does just provide a little bit something that's a little bit more appropriate in regards to scale. So again, reduce the second, third floor by 6 inches, which then in return help reduce everything by 18 inches and provide a much better streetscape in regards to elevation. And then once again, down here, the proposed streetscape with the existing streetscape, and then the proposed with our building, kind of once again showing the context of the building, how it lines up with its neighboring buildings, how the windows, the accents such as the pitched roof, the elevated porch, things like that really help create a sort of uniform look across this little stretch of homes on 2624 JFK. So those are the comments that were made. Those are the changes that were made, I'm sorry, based off of the comments from the board. And in regards to some of the comments that were made by the public regarding the roof leaders, we were able to, rather than just have the roof leader come down on the front post, as it was discussed before, we are running it back. So we're running it back across the sort of eave, the porch is sticking out, and it's going to come down the side of the building. This will hopefully help limit the visibility of the roof gutter on the front and provide a much better, from an aesthetic point of view, a much better gutter location. Also, something that was brought up, as Mr. Benjamin Wine had stated, was the argument between the CMU wall and the railing. We did go with the railing, as it was shown on our elevation, and that was pretty much about it. So, just to sort of wrap up, this project obviously started at something completely different. I think from talks with both the community and the board, it has drastically changed over time. And I think in the end, it has been like a very much collaborative effort between both community and board. And I think the end result is something that we're very happy with and something that we're very proud of. I hope you are as well. And yeah, that pretty much wraps it up.
Thank you, Martin. I have nothing further for Mr. Moreno.
I think the rendering, as well as that other one, those weren't in the original plan. So if we could mark those as A1, and if you could just send those to me when you get a chance. Awesome.
I think you guys knocked it out of the park. I mean, you clearly took careful notes of all the feedback that was provided and incorporated all of it with the following the intention of the commission and the comments of the public. And it's unfortunate that you had to keep coming back, but I think this has been an iterative process, and it's yielded a very nice final result. It looks very good to me. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's greatly improved. And thanks for working with us on it. I think the only question that I have is just with the entry door and the side lights, the only thing to me that I think it's kind of calling out for maybe a transom above the door. I don't know if you looked into that
We
or...
originally did propose a transom. So we did have that. We had the one transom at top and one side light. And then after discussions, we swapped it out to just 2 side lights. But there is an iteration that had the transom up top.
Okay, I'm not, certainly not, married to it, but I think maybe it's something where if you look into it and maybe you can work with staff on it if you think that, or if staff thinks that
Yeah,
the
but
transom and the 2 side lights is something that could work, but I'd be fine also with it as is.
I would also just like to add that since the ceilings are now shorter, there is also limited space from the top of the door to the ceiling for
Okay.
a transom.
So there might be a structural reason why you can't.
Yeah, it'd be a very slim transom to be honest. I
Okay,
think
so
the
maybe it
side-
doesn't make sense, and I think it's just like it's almost like I don't know what that dimension is between the top of the door and the bottom of the porch. So if it's not possible, then I understand there's a structural or reason for that. It seems a little just with the rest of the window openings on that parlor floor all being the same height and the door slightly lower. But I don't think it's going to.
You can also look at the possibility of maybe making the door taller. That's also
Yeah.
an option too.
Though I think did you mention something about the maximum size when you were presenting?
Of width.
Or in
to-
terms of
if
width,
I
yeah.
just quickly go to the first floor plan or the second floor plan, sorry. So right here, in terms of width to accommodate the landing that we have, that was the largest size that we can go.
So maybe it's something where the door header matches the windows on the rest of the parlor floor. Maybe that makes sense. But I'm fine with you working with staff on that.
Sure, thank you.
I have a suggestion. Maybe you want to beef up the trim around the entire door. To
Right.
bring it up to height and make it relate to the trim, because the trim around the door looks considerably thinner than the trim around the windows.
Okay, noted.
So
Thank you.
maybe, traditionally on these houses, the trim was really grand. So maybe just by beefing up the trim, it'll do the right thing.
Got it, thank you. Noted.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Ben, did you have any other testimony?
Nothing this evening. So you heard obviously from our planner at the last meeting, and as we had discussed, she was not able to come back this evening. I don't think she has anything else to add beyond what's on the record. But at this point, I would just respectfully request the right to respond to any comments from the commission, the public, and sum up at the conclusion of the application.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, we'll move on to public comment. If there are any members of the public who would like to address the commission regarding this application, please approach the public comment mic.
Should we make a motion then?
Yes, thank you. If we could have a motion.
to open public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah. Same rules as before. We have 5 minutes. I'll give you warnings as we're getting close. And if you could address all questions towards the chair, and then he will direct them everywhere else.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Please swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
And just state and spell your name for the record and
Charlene Burke, CharleneBurke. Good evening, Commissioners. I am very much pleased by many of the changes that have occurred to this project from beginning, even with the community group, to this point here. One of the things that the community certainly was striving for, though, was a smaller unit house overall. I don't know whether it's in your purview about how many units can be. I think this is a 1 or 2 unit property, and so you can't dictate to the applicant what the units are. You can more speak to its design, but we as the community were willing to go to 3, which is 1 more than what the zoning allowed for, not 4, because we still feel that the bulk size at the top is larger than the rest of those on this particular block. And given that it is our most visible entry and exit to our historic district, we have a great concern about that, because when we were becoming a historic district, it meant to us that we would have new development that would be complementary and aligned with what we do have. And most of our individual homes are one-family homes. Yes, we are intermingled with apartment buildings, but our individual homes are one families, typically not 2 families. Here, we're going to 4 families. All those houses to the right, they're all one-family homes. They're not multifamilies. So it really is out of alignment with what our neighborhood is. Even the very grand house across the street, St. Peter's President, lives in a one-family home. And so 4 families, too many, pressure on the neighborhood as well. But this, if it were reduced to 3 families, that would be great. But overall, very pleased with the design and how we have worked with the developer and the lawyer. Ben Wine has always been accessible. So we hope to continue to do that. If it's not in your purview, that's fine. If it's zoning that we go to next, that'll be where we make that argument. But I want to thank all the commissioners for their hard work of working on this, because it is a lot better than even we, the community, were imparting, because we're not like you guys. We don't know everything about this stuff. It's just a kind of like, oh, well, maybe this looks better. But so we appreciate how you've gotten it to this point. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other members of the community that are wishing to speak tonight?
Good evening, everyone. Do I need to do my name and everything again? No, right? Great. So I think this is a really great journey. I love what I see. I just had one thought, and it has to do with the center window on the front gable. I noticed that a lot of the homes of that time period, and Mr. Amatuzzo, you made a notation about the thickness of the moldings on the door. I was thinking about that and the arch part of the window, something to kind of highlight that a little bit. If you look at the adjacent properties, that's usually something happens there. There's a little something that goes on. So I'm wondering if the casing could be a little larger or something could happen there just to make it peek out, and maybe I'm off there, but if you look at the adjacent properties, they all kind of have that. That molding's a little thicker, or there's something that just brings a little bit of something special to that area. And that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Raise your right hand.
Good evening.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And state please full name and your address.
My full name is Shireen McCormick, SHIRIN MACCORMACK, 130 Glenwood Ave. Good evening. As others have already said, we do appreciate the applicant's receptiveness to community and the board's comments on this proposal, and we do appreciate them lowering the unit count. I just wanted to note that it is still double what the zoning is allowing. Also, I just wanted to revisit the drawings, and I do have a photo taken from across the street, directly across versus south of all the properties, and quite a bit south. So it shows the properties, it shows the proposal in maybe more accurate scale compared to surroundings. So I'd like to submit that as evidence or pass it around however you wish. I just, you know, I know the bulk had been an issue, and some of the community from Lincoln Park North had commented on that, saying that it was awkward and bulky and too top heavy. There have been many changes made, numerous, so I do see them here and they look really nice, and I just wanted to address the scale. The 1938 tax records show that from 1890 to 2015, the original structure here was a single unit home with 8 rooms, and there were 2 bathrooms, and the whole structure only took up the northern 2/3 of the lot. So while it is an awkwardly proportioned lot, that's how they worked around that irregular shape of a lot that's wider than it is deep. They basically created a side yard for quality of life and air, light, and open space, and space between properties, which is quite common in the HD. looking at those 1938 tax records, there was also a flagstone sidewalk and a slate roof and a low stone wall that corresponded visually connecting with the surroundings of the whole block. And the property at the northwest corner of this block and at the southwest corner still have their original stone walls. So I just wanted to suggest that. In fact, it would be my personal view that all vacant lots within the HDs are considering putting in the flagstone or bluestone front walks. And I just wanted to also, I wasn't at the last meeting, but I did want to ask about the front columns. I know that at one of the earlier meetings, I believe the first meeting, someone had, from the commissioners, had said that the front columns could be thicker and tapered, and maybe they looked a bit toothpicky. So I just wanted to question that. And in general, I think the structure looks a lot better than it did originally, and just wanted to reiterate that it's been nice to have correspondence and collaboration with the applicant on this. I also wanted to ask if I could just get that image and submit it. Thank you. That concludes my comments.
Yeah, we can mark that as B01. Okay, great. And if we could just,
We just mark it as SM1, because it's not really an objective.
okay. And if you could just hand it to Robert, the chair, down in the middle. And Sharon, when I'm going to give you my email address, if you could just email that to me as well. Thank you so much.
He should certainly get a copy.
Yes. There's that.
There you go.
Give one to them.
There you go.
And we should give two, so give one to the
There you go, too. For the architect.
Or did you get one?
For your architect.
I
to
did
look
not
at.
get one. No.
We can
It's
share.
fine.
We have plenty.
So, okay.
I need one here.
Oh, you can have mine.
Oh,
I'll
Thank you.
share.
Okay.
Got the glare there. Ooh, jeez.
I didn't hear any explicit questions within there. I think there was a bunch of comments of things we could look at. Maybe if we have a motion to close public comment, and then we can move on from there.
motion to close public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great.
So I don't know how much of this you want me to repeat, Mr. Wine. I would just give you an opportunity to respond. Obviously, the most, I think, pressing comment or concern that was raised by two members of the public was about the massing, the scale. The words awkward, bulky, too top heavy came up. Comments that other homes in the neighborhood are one family, maybe two, and you're asking for double that. So would you like to respond?
Yeah, and I think we touched on it obviously at the last meeting. Every lot is different. This has never been an application to replicate what was on the property previously. I think if it was, this would have taken a much different direction. That's certainly not, what the Secretary of Interior standards are for new development in a historic district. I think it was the chair who initially said that we could have taken really one of two approaches. One is to try to marry our development with what's there in the context, and the other would be to make it so, significantly different that it's pretty clear that this is not, an attempt to replicate some type of historic motif. And obviously we chose and stuck with the approach to, to try and marry and contextualize the building that we've developed. You heard from our planner at the last meeting, and I know Ms. McCormick wasn't here, but one of the things she addressed really, which is really more for zoning, but it came up here regarding the massing generally. The other lots, as you saw on the plans, which I think were probably best shown on Z102 in your package, all the other lots that we've been comparing our facade to, because that's what's visible from the street, they're all your more traditional, they're not traditional rectangles, but they're your more traditional narrow width, deep lot. This is not that. This is actually the opposite. It's a wider lot and a shallower depth. One of the sides being of our building depth even being, as we had said on the record, 30 feet deep, which is extremely uncharacteristic from a zoning perspective of development really on any lot in any district in Jersey City and in most other municipalities. So while there was a comment about, the width, I respectfully disagree regarding the top-heavy nature. I think you see it well on the rendering. I think in the prior iterations with different renderers, there was one rendering that was done completely by a different renderer that this commission had said they did not feel it accurately represented what the final product would look like. I think with the rendering you see on the screen now, and even the prior iteration, I respectfully disagree that it comes across as top heavy. I'm not a historic preservationist, but you guys are the commission, and we put on testimony that architecturally this works. You saw the top floor plan altogether, and it's a very odd shaped top floor plan, which is indicative of the fact that there are bump ins and bump outs and dormers and all those things to not make that top heavy. So while I think, and respectfully, I can say that during the context of our neighborhood meetings, there was a lot of comment. I think the word top heavy was not used as often. It was more, this is a wider top, and it is. I mean, it is, but it's a wider lot. And if you could turn this lot 90 degrees, you might end up with a different design. But this is the lot that we're dealing with, and that's why the variance process is in place. And we hope we'll be successful in explaining that and convincing the zoning board of exactly that. Regarding the density, same thing. And I said it at the last meeting. Our lot, it sat vacant, you heard, from 2015. I saw on Google what was there previously, but clearly this lot has sat vacant and undeveloped. And when you look at development generally, and I'm waxing a little poetic, but as I said at the last meeting, you have to look at, making it so that the developer is actually functionally and economically able to develop the lot. And if you hold developers, especially in historic districts where the cost of construction, I don't need to tell you, I think you know this, are significantly higher. I mean, if this was not a historic district, we could put up a Bayonne box. Those are a lot cheaper to construct. There are plenty of them when you drive around Jersey City, and they're cheap to construct. So developers see that and say, maybe I don't need a density variance to accommodate that type of development. When you're dealing with even the amount of articulation and bump in, bump out, it's a significant cost increase. So you look at a lot that has sat vacant for at least 10 years, and I think this commission is charged with saying, okay, so we're seeking a density variance. We have to justify that to the zoning board. That's not hidden. That's a fact. That's why we're going to, that is actually one of the two reasons we're going to zoning instead of planning after this. And that's our task, and that's our job to justify it. But to the commission's perspective, I think it's worth noting that if you want a building that the chairman said it, that it looks great, it fits in, if that's the type of building you want, absent turning this into a redevelopment plan that incentivizes developers with things like tax breaks, pilot agreements, which are certainly not in play in a standard zone, there has to be something that's in it for the developer to justify developing a beautiful building that everybody likes looking at. And so that's really my HPC response to that comment, which might sound a little different when we have our planner come up to the zoning board, though I think that's going to be part and parcel. One last thought on that, the court has been clear that economics are not in and of themselves to come into play when you're dealing with matters. And again, that's more before planning board, zoning board, but variances. But it has recognized that if something is economic inutility, preventing development is also not a good thing. And there are cases that I will intend to bring to the zoning board to the extent that comes up, explaining that we could be rigid and we could say, here's what the zoning says, and this lot could sit vacant for the next 10 years. And I don't think that the two additional units that came down from, we started at 7, ended up at 6, the request from the community was that you make these condoable, which meant turning them into dryer in each unit, which meant making them functional and desirable to people who are looking to invest money and not just rent. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but not rent and be more transient here, raise their families here. You need to have larger units, 2-3 bedroom units, which we have. You need to make it make sense, and I think that's what we've done. So that's really my response to those two comments, unless I missed anything. And the height? Oh, the contextual with the height, right. I'll admit, this is the first time I'm seeing this exhibit. I don't doubt, Ms. McCormick and her photography, but I'm happy for Mr. Moreno to address this. I know we spoke early on that we had a significant and a very expensive topographic survey done of this area, so the heights that you're seeing here are actually exact, but I'm happy to have him address that.
I know this was brought up previously, so just to briefly recap it, we are working with a survey, a license survey, which shows accurate topography markers as well as the accurate heights of each building. So what you are seeing here in the streetscape are representative of that. These sketches, these elevations were drawn based off of the information that was provided to us by the topographical surveyor. By doing so, we were able to create while yes, it is taller than what is permitted in the zone, I can say that all the buildings are also taller than what's permitted, but it does show, it does allow us to create a building height that is contextually in line with what's there on the street. And in regards to what Ms. McCormick said, in regards to side yards and open space, I also do want to clarify that our side yard here, the distance between these both buildings of 9 feet, which we highlighted, is more than any other space that is found in between any of the homes. So between this, and this, our proposed 9 feet in our much smaller lot is more than what's found in between the other homes. So I just wanted to highlight that in terms of side yard spacing and in terms of the building height comments.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I mean, there's no question that the proposed building is larger than the neighboring structures, but looking at the historic design standards for new construction, it doesn't have to replicate the historic older buildings or structures. It just needs to be compatible in terms of size, height, massing. So those are the things that we have to consider as a commission. Another comment that was raised was with regard to the center window on the front gable, and if there's anything you could do to zhuzh it up, if you will.
Is that a legal term? Or?
It's a term of art, not a legal term.
Yeah,
of art.
and in regards to making it more compatible from a design and material standpoint, that's definitely something that we are open to. We have no issue with that.
What is it now? Is it just like a blank panel now?
It'll be a sort of cladding paneling to match some of the homes that you, for example, this one and this one. The both next door are, I believe this one is window and this one is cladding. Let me see if I can zoom in. Yes, so the one, our immediate neighbor, does look like they have an arch window there, and the one next to us has cladding. As Mr. Perez mentioned, that one has a sort of a nice designed trim, so that's something that we can propose to ours to sort of help match this house here.
It looks like there's like a semi arch and maybe like a keystone on that center building there, and even over to the right, that building that's on the far, yeah, you can see there's a design.
You mean the center, correct?
Yeah,
yes.
There's even a design there on the brown top
that's
floor.
Something that we don't. I'm sorry.
There's even a design there on the brown.
On the brown building, the top floor there is some sort of arched semicircle there. So something I would say, you can work with staff on something that's not just a blank panel, some sort of
Sunburst.
Yeah,
It's called a
yeah, you
sunburst.
see like a sunburst
That's
soften.
what it is on the Brown House, is a sunburst.
So something like that to give it some character would be great.
Sure, we have no objection to that. That's fine. Thank you.
All right, we had a comment from Ms. McCormick. I believe she referenced the low stone wall connecting to neighboring properties. Was that a reference to the retaining wall that we've gone back and forth on repeatedly?
Yes.
And in this case, what I meant was not necessarily to retain, but just to have visual consistency. So the grade on both sides of the low wall that I was talking about would be the same. It wouldn't be like a retaining wall, it would just be a low stone wall so that it matches the rest of the entire block that has a low stone wall. Some of those are retaining.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that clarifies it. Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Do we have an issue with that?
Well, we've been back and forth.
this is okay.
The wall, right.
If there was a wall, but there is not.
We've proposed a wall, we've proposed without a wall, we've gone back and forth, and I think at the last meeting, we were all in favor of doing the railing.
That's correct.
Yep, that is where we left things. Thank you. And just to clarify, let's avoid a back and forth with the public. The
Yes.
public comment is closed, so I didn't mean to pose a question to Ms. McCormick. And then the last comments were about flagstone or bluestone walk.
Which we are proposing. We have bluestone walkways in our property. That's been part of our design for the last couple iterations, and it's found on our site plan. The reason for that was because the sidewalk here on Fairmount and John F. Kennedy has bluestone walkways. That's something that was brought to our attention from the community. Therefore, we implemented that design into our walkways. So these walkways here are bluestone walkways, and like I said, it's been that way for the last maybe 3 or 4 iterations.
But so it's just the walkways, not the sidewalk itself, though, correct?
Sidewalk itself is not. I believe we were told to make that landmark gray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think we just wanted to clarify that too, and I think that's okay. We do approve, landmark. And what is
Correct.
there? What is existing there now?
To be honest, Commissioner, I'm not sure.
Okay, so maybe that's something. If there is any bluestone on site on the sidewalk, we should probably try to retain it or consolidate it if possible.
From the site photo, it looks like it's
just
concrete.
concrete.
Yeah.
Which would make sense given that it was a driveway, like it was a curb cut.
And finally, there was a question about the columns, and that's another one where we've gone through several iterations to arrive at this
Right,
version.
and to clarify that one, the quote-unquote toothpick columns that Ms. McCormick was referring to were the ones here underneath. If the board recalls, the reason they were brought up was because it felt that they were too small to hold up this portion of the house. Therefore, we changed it to this sort of like large brick structure underneath. So that was the change that we made based off of that. But we didn't receive any comments on the porch columns, as far as I'm concerned.
All right, thank you. Can we move into
Yes.
staff comment, please?
Yes. So I know this is the 4th meeting we've heard from the applicant. This is the first time we are getting to staff comments. So I will just state, HPC staff is in support of this project. We find the application to be mostly consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards for historic preservation. The new proposed building is visually consistent within the row, and each have a similar roof shape, entry pattern, street setback. They conform to the predominant design standard in the RH2 zone, which says buildings' proportions shall be compatible with the predominant proportional relationship along the street. Building entries, windows, and other openings shall be compatible in location, size, and pattern to other structures on the block. To the greatest extent possible, characteristics of surrounding development, such as roof style and pitch, material, window, and door detailing, and the presence of porches shall be consistent with other structures on the block. The height variance requested would align the building with its adjacent neighbors, as depicted in the block front diagram on A203, and additionally, the window fenestration aligns with the block front as a whole, which makes the building very visually compatible with the adjacent historic resources. The applicant will need to request and get approval for a franchise ordinance to construct the front yard as it's currently proposed, but HPC staff feels that this request will not reduce the existing pedestrian sidewalk on JFK. So in HPC staff's opinion, the project as proposed will not cause an adverse effect on the character and or integrity of the historic resource or the West Bergen East Lincoln Park Historic District. HPC staff recommends an approval of a certificate of appropriateness and a recommendation for approval to the zoning board with the following conditions. So we have the conditions that are in the staff report. I am going to add one. So applicant shall work with staff to refine the front door. Would we like to add also the Palladian style window up at the top?
Yes.
Okay. And I didn't know if we would like to add the columns as well.
I think the columns, and I think the thing that, looking at like this rendering, the column on the left, just that's the column that I think needs to be worked on. Maybe
Okay.
that's the one that needs to be thicker, even if it's thicker than the rest of the shorter columns. And I think it makes sense that a longer column would be a bit thicker. So just look at the proportions. Maybe there are other examples in a historic district of a porch that has two different columns of two different heights. So kind of see what happens there. But it's twice the height, I think, at least, right? So something just seems a little off there about the proportions of those columns. So
We'll take a look.
definitely work with staff on that.
Yeah. So applicant shall work with staff to refine the front door, Palladian window, and columns. We also have all landscaping, including tree pits, shall conform with the Jersey City forestry standards. The applicant shall seek approval of a franchise ordinance for the construction of the front yard railing and areaway as it extends beyond the property line. If any component of that approval alters the proposal, the applicant shall submit a deviation request in writing to HPC staff and provide plans for review showing the existing, proposed, and revised condition. If necessary, the applicant will reappear in front of the HPC to seek approval of the changes. And then the other conditions are our standard conditions.
And Mr. Achimov, so to be fair, we accept all those conditions. I had one more
Great.
listed as well. I think it was Mr. Blazak's comment regarding the height of the door, or something to do work with. I don't know.
I
if-
think,
So refinement of the front door,
yeah,
I would
just
include in
to
that.
refine it, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
I was fine with either. The architect talked about maybe changing the size of the door.
Okay.
So I think, yeah, working in a trim. I'm okay with staff working on that.
Okay. Then in that case, we have no issue with the comments.
Great. So again, HPC staff's recommendation is approval of a certificate of appropriateness and a recommendation for approval to the zoning board of adjustment with the red conditions. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Approve with conditions, of course.
Paul, it was you who seconded it, right?
Yeah,
Corey.
Corey. It was,
Oh, it was Corey?
Yeah.
No, sorry.
that's okay.
Glad I said something. Okay. So I will do a roll call vote. Commissioner Amatuzzo,
Aye.
Commissioner Garriga,
Aye.
Commissioner Blazak,
Aye.
Commissioner Cronin,
Aye.
Chair Gordon.
Aye.
We have 5 in favor, no against, no abstentions. The certificate of appropriateness with conditions and the positive recommendation to the zoning board is approved.
Thank you very much, everyone, and appreciate your time over the last several months.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, moving to new business, I will now call case H21-349. The applicant is John Easterling, AIA applicant on behalf of City of Jersey City owner. The address is 54 Journal Square, aka the Lowe's Jersey Theater, in the Journal Square 2060 redevelopment plan preservation zone, New Jersey State Register of Historic Places. The application is for review of design deviation request for the proposed exterior screening that is visible from the public right-of-way at the Lowe's Jersey Theater, an altered Spanish Baroque-influenced Wonder Theater completed in 1929.
Just as a note before we begin, this is a referral review, so this one actually doesn't require 5 affirmative votes. This will just be a majority.
This will just be
A majority?
Good evening, Commissioners and Chairman. Thank you for your time this evening. I'm John Easterling, Principal with OTJ Architects.
Could you raise your right hand, please, sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state and spell your full name for the record.
John Easterling, Easterling.
And you said, what's the firm?
OTJ. Yes. So this evening, I would like to just run through some of the images that we
So,
crafted to-
sorry, John, 1 second. Staff will note that Mr. Easterling has previously been approved as a expert in the field of architecture before this board. Thank you.
Yes.
Continue.
Yeah, we met virtually a couple of years ago, but this is the first time in person. So thank you. So we're here to ask you to review the screen wall that we're proposing enclose the generator that is going to be added to the rooftop of the new elevator addition. I will orient you here on the plan. This is the plan of the Lowe's Jersey Theater. JFK is here on the right, and then Magnolia comes up from the bottom here, and there's an alley which connects the two, which is part of the theater property. There exists a 1- and 2-story addition adjacent to the theater along the alley, and currently we are going to add an elevator in this location where you can see my cursor, which is a 2-story addition, and we're proposing to locate the emergency generator in that location, and as you see here on the enlarged plan, enclose it with a champagne anodized aluminum screen wall. And these exhibits show first elevation from JFK here on the left, and you can see the previously approved 2-story addition, which is going to be new brick, and we have brick samples here for what that is, and while we're not kind of here to necessarily review that, we wanted to show you what that brick, which is going to be complementary to the existing theater, is going to look like with the sample of the champagne anodized metal, which is what we're proposing for the screen wall. So as you look at the elevations here, what we're showing first is the elevation of the addition with the emergency generator on it from JFK, as well as the elevation along the alley. And I'll flip to the next slide, which has the proposed metal screen wall on there to hide the emergency generator from view from JFK, as well as Magnolia and along the alleyway there. The screen wall is proposed to be 8 feet above the coping. So this area here is the brick that you just looked at, and then there's a precast coping that would go on top of that, and then 8 feet above that would be the top of the screen wall. The top of the generator from the previous image is 7 feet to the top of the muffler, which sits atop the generator. So we're going up 1 foot higher than what that would be as measured from the top of the coping. This was a previously approved elevation, just to kind of give you an idea of materials again, and the location used to be above a vestibule, and we had the emergency generator there. That has since changed and has since been approved to change where we are no longer building a new vestibule there. So we needed to find a new location for the emergency generator, and the most logical place was atop the elevator, 2-story elevator addition there. And again, this is a larger image without the screen wall to show you what you would see with the generator, and the muffler on top, as I mentioned, is the highest point there, and then with the screen wall. And the screen wall is we have details here. As you see on the upper right, it's a series of vertical blades that are 3 inches wide, and it is a site-proof design for the screen wall. Air can circulate, but you can't see through the screen from any angle because of the overlap of the blades. We will install the screen wall on the roof and not on top of the coping, so it will sit back a little bit so that you can see, have a distinct line there for the coping on top of the brick. Just refer back to that real quick. And then we had a couple of images of the existing site. This image on the lower left is a view from down the alley, kind of as you approach it from Magnolia. The view number 2 here is from JFK, as you're walking down the alley, the existing one-story addition is here on your right, and then some views from across JFK. And this particular view on the lower right, we used to create some sightline studies so that you could see kind of the massing of that approved two-story elevator addition, and then what you'll see. This viewpoint here in front of the theater was actually kind of in front of the alley there on JFK. Looking up without the screen wall, you'd be able to see that emergency generator, and then even the viewpoint from across JFK, you would easily see the generator. So our intention with proposing the screen wall is to hide that in a way that is consistent with the Secretary of Interior's standards and guidelines for treatment of historic properties. Thank you.
It's just a wall, so it's open on top?
Yes, it is open on top.
Okay, thank you.
And just remind me, when did the change with the lack of the new vestibule come in again?
We submitted that to staff.
Probably before my time, to be honest.
So was that something I just don't quite remember that? If was that something you came to the board with, or?
I don't think we needed to come to the board.
I think it was approved at the staff level.
Yeah.
It makes sense because therefore there's going to be more historic fabric left with the existing doors, right?
Without adding the vestibule, you see more of the historic facade. That's correct.
And I guess the trade-off then is that with so the generator is going to go on top of that.
It was going to be lower down.
Yes. So we're saving some historic fabric kind of in the back there and on that side entrance. But we are going to see this a little bit more from across Kennedy Boulevard.
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yep.
Okay. Then I think if we could have a motion to open public comment.
Motion to open public comment.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Are there any members of the public here? Great.
Thank you. Commissioners, I'm just curious, why can't the generator be on the roof? I mean, it would be totally hidden then from seeing it from any point of view. So, I mean, why couldn't it be there? I know they're building or accommodating an elevator on the exterior. I understand that, but the generator, I don't know. That's just a question. Thank you.
Thank you. And any other members of the public that are wishing to speak? No? Okay. So if we could have a motion to close public comment?
Motion to close public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Would you like to?
Mr. Easterling, you heard the lady?
Yes. We did look at alternate locations for the emergency generator, but given it's a theater, you don't want to put equipment on top of the roof. We have some equipment going on, a new chiller going on the roof of the stage house. So there's no room up there for the emergency generator, and we did not want to put it on the lower roof above the lobby. You would see it from other locations down along JFK, and this was the most beneficial to the project, the best location.
And there's nowhere like along the back or anything that you can put it on either, yeah.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay. Then no more questions. We will move into staff comment.
I feel like I would have, if you had led with there's no room, that would have been the end of it, but you led with because it's a theater, we don't want to put it on the roof. I didn't quite understand.
So you don't want to put equipment on the theater house roof itself for acoustic reasons as well as, right? So you need to isolate all your equipment. We have no new mechanical equipment on the house roof at all. That's why it's in the back. So there is no other good location for the emergency generator.
Okay, acoustics. Got it. Thank you. Okay, we can
Thank you for
move.
clarifying.
No problem. Yeah, just a little bit of background on this project. You guys did review the original application as a referral from the planning board on a section 131 review. They then came back in October of 2021, and then they have since reappeared July 17th of 2023 for an amendment to the loading dock configuration, which kind of brings us to today. HPC staff has reviewed the application, and we support it. After reviewing the proposed deviation request to utilize the new architectural screen wall, to utilize the new architectural screen wall at the alley side of the building that is visible from the public right of way. This will screen the generator. It will also, as you mentioned, insulate some of the noise from the surrounding area, which will be helpful. Generators tend to get loud. So reviewing it per the Secretary of the Interior standards for treatment of historic properties and the standards outlined in Zone 6 of the Preservation Zone of Journal Square 2060 redevelopment plan, we find the application to be generally consistent with both sets of standards and believe that it will not have an adverse effect on the historic resource. To this end, staff of the Historic Preservation Commission recommends that the following items on the plan set be updated prior to the submission to the NJHBO and the National Park System. We would like updated construction documents detailing the new architectural screen. We would also like construction details to be included for the architectural screen wall. I know we have a little one just to be consistent. And then just a final note that all previous recommendations for the plan updates that were provided to the applicant, either in writing or during testimony at any of the 4 prior public meetings, July 14th, 2021, September 14th, 2021, October 25th, 2021, and July 17th, 2023 remain in effect until considered complete by HBC staff. Again, as this property is not a locally designated landmark, and the applicant is seeking the HPC's recommendation, if the proposal is satisfactory to the commission, HPC staff recommends that the commission make a motion to have staff prepare a memorandum stating the commission's recommendations to be distributed to the Jersey City Planning Board, NJHPO, MPS, and any other relevant parties. It's a mouthful on that one. So.
I'll make a motion to whatever you said.
I'll second it.
Paul, and then Corey, was that you?
Yep.
Okay, I'll do a roll call attendance.
Sorry, just to clarify, it's a motion for Michael or the HPC office to issue a recommendation to the planning board.
Yep.
Gotcha. Commissioner Amatuzzo?
Aye.
Commissioner Garriga?
Yes.
Commissioner Blazak?
Aye.
Commissioner Cronin?
Aye.
And Chair Gordon?
Aye.
We have 5 in favor, no against, no abstentions. The recommendation is approved.
And thank you for the
Motion is
sample
approved.
boards and the sightline drawings and everything. Really was thoroughly prepared. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Take care.
How you doing, Bridget? Good? Okay. We only have a demo left and then just a little bit. So do we want to just keep moving along?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any updates on tabled?
So yes, tabled cases. We do not have any updates on the tabled case. I will reach out to the staff that is working on that and see if they have any updates. And then I guess we lost the commissioner. So why don't we take a...
He went to just blow his nose
Yep.
or something.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, we'll take a 5-minute recess.
Yeah, why don't we take a 5-minute break and then...
We'll come back at 7:53.
Sounds good.
On the record, calling the meeting back to order. It's 7:54. Next up is demolition review. We have 892 Summit Avenue. This is B-24-2478. Commissioner Amatuzzo, I believe, has to recuse himself from this demolition review, leaving us without a quorum to review it this evening. And with that in mind, I will make a motion to carry this review to the next regular meeting.
I second that.
Is it a motion or do you just carry it?
Oh, I assumed we needed a
The
motion,
law
but
talking guy.
Commissioner Amatuzzo can't vote on a motion concerning.
okay, so they'll just carry it then.
But if you,
Okay.
5.
I recall you said the only thing that we can do without a quorum is adjourn.
yes, or take another break to try and get a quorum, which I don't think is going to
No,
happen.
No.
today.
They
So
can wait till next month.
I
Yeah.
would suggest just carrying it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so it's just carried then. Great. So that's that. And then we do not have an update on the carried demolition review case. Still waiting to hear from them. Next up after that on the agenda is the results of the nomination committee for the April election of officers, chair, vice chair, and secretary. During the February 10th, 2025 HPC meeting, there was an approved motion to appoint Chair Gordon and Commissioner Cronin to the nominations committee for the April election. Do you have any results that you would like to share?
We've been looking far. We've been looking wide. We've been looking all over the place, scouring for the best this fine city has to offer. No one has stepped forward yet.
Okay.
So stay tuned.
So then we will.
Hold on. I should clarify that we did have a discussion.
Oh.
I was nominating Commissioner Cronin for chair, and there was a vice chair nomination, I believe.
Oh, okay. So I will nominate Commissioner Garriga to be vice chair then.
Okay. We are not going to take any formal action on this until next month.
Next week, yeah.
But
What's the date on that, by the way?
it is April 14th.
Perfect.
But
You can still be nominated and elected if you're not there. So
yes.
Well, no, I plan on being there. My wife just had what's called a baby moon scheduled. Apparently, that's a thing. So I just wanted to make sure that wasn't running into that.
Great. Okay. So we do not have any resolutions. No discussions, no memorializations of resolutions. We do not need an executive session, and that just leaves us with adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
It is 7:56. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
What's a baby moon?
It's like a honeymoon, but you go on a trip.
Okay.
Before you have a baby.